ACE Prep Part 4, FTK. What three types of traditional hashing can be done in FTK pre-processing? And the answer is MD5 hashing, SHA-1, and SHA-256. Let's have a look in the tool. Here we are in the tool, and to demonstrate these features, we'll begin to create a new case from the case menu. And let's just say I call it test 1. And since FTK5 has the processing profiles, I will use the default AD standard processing profile. Click the custom button to look at the features that includes, the processing options. And as I can see here, MD5 hashing is included, SHA-1 hashing, and SHA-256 hashing. Now, as an aside, one of the other defaults here would be found under Evidence Refinement Advanced. And when I look there, notice that by default, the function for including KFF ignorable files is not checked. So unless you check that, you will not see any KFF ignorable files in your case. So for the purposes of the exam, make sure that you do turn that function on. How can an automatically carved item's location and parent be determined by FTK? And the answer, when clicking on the newly carved item, its parent will be listed in the path shown at the bottom of the screen. The parent name is to the left of the child name. In addition, the carved item's location, meaning the offset or the cursor position within the parent, is indicated by the bracketed number in the file name. When can data carving be performed in FTK? And the answer is you can data carve during pre-processing. You can data carve after case creation. What would be the advantage of performing data carving after case creation? And the answer, it can be performed on a smaller group of files, meaning you can check or quick pick files in advance instead of on the entire case. Let's have a look at the carving features in the tool. In FTK, from what we did earlier, on the Overview tab in the Decrypted Files container, we have a decrypted file called real1decrypted.doc. So if I go and look at that file in the Explore tab, then that file real1decrypted.doc is shown in the tree because it has some sub-items. When I highlight the file in the tree, I can see the metadata sub-items here. I want to carve all of those, so I can do that in any number of ways to select them. So I'll highlight the files in the file list, and with that in mind, I'll do data carving. Up to my Evidence menu and Additional Analysis. And I want to first make sure that I'm only performing this carving operation on my highlighted files. So then once I've done that, I will proceed over to data carving. I'll check the box for data carving. And remember, the carving options button will let me further choose what type of files I want to carve. And by default, there's a group of graphic files that are selected. I'll leave those all selected for the moment. Click OK, and then I'll click the OK button again to begin my carving process. My carving operation is now completed, and as a result, 2 of those metadata objects are now shown in the tree, indicating that they in turn have child items. And I'll highlight the Word document metadata item, and you can see that there are 2 carved files that were located within that metadata item. And so looking at the first file, which is called carved, and then it has in brackets a number, 3643.jpg, the highlighting the file shows me down in the file list the path of that file, what it's related to, what its parent is. I see the file name listed here in the bottom of the FTK window, and immediately to the left, after the double greater than signs, I have its parent listed, which in this case is Word document. Now the second part of the question asks what was the significance of the number in the file name, 3643. And we said that that indicates the cursor position or offset within the parent item where this file was located. So we'll start by going to the parent item, which is the Word document metadata. Then in my viewer, I'll switch to hex, and then I need to go to cursor position or offset 3643, watching my numbers here at the bottom of the window. So I'll make my way down to 3643. And when I reach that position, cursor position, I find in hex the header for a JPEG file, FFD8FFE0, and it's almost always followed by this JFIF that's in uppercase. So that is the location of this carved item within the parent object. Now, we earlier had started to create a test case, and we can do that again just to demonstrate when data carving can be performed. When I look at my AD standard processing profile and click on the custom button, I note that data carving is an option here. Now, if I choose it here, I don't have control over what items are carved. It's going to be all of my case items or nothing. Now I'm within my case in FTK, and here if I want to perform data carving, I can be much more selective on what files get carved. So for an example, I'll go to my user Bilbo Baggins, and let's say I want to carve all of just Bilbo's files. I can quick pick the Bilbo Baggins folder, then down below I'm listing all of the files that belong to Bilbo. And with that in mind, I can proceed to do my data carving, evidence additional analysis, and here for my target items, instead of doing all items, I'll choose my currently listed items, which happen to be Bilbo's files. And from there, of course, I can proceed to do my data carving, checking the box for carving, and clicking OK. Now that my carving has finished, I can see my results in a couple of ways. On the Overview tab, I can go to File Status and look at my Data Carved Files container here. And we have some carved items. Now we have a couple from the previous exercise that we did that belong to the metadata that we carved out of the real1.doc file, but the newly carved items are the last 4 items here. And notice the path here, it's showing me that these came out of the ntuser.dat file for my user Bilbo Baggins. So all 4 of the files that we've carved come out of their little bitmap files that were actually in the registry file belonging to my user Bilbo Baggins. So by choosing files, by quick picking or checking the files, I can be more selective on the files that I carve, and I can choose a smaller subset of files than being forced to carve all the files during pre-processing. So if I carve them after my case is created, much more selective, and I can be quicker about it. What are the major sections in the FTK report? And the answer: case information, bookmarks, graphics, videos, file paths, file properties, registry selections, screen captures. Let's have a look at the report function in the tool. In FTK, if we want to launch the report function, we go to the File menu and Report. And in the outline, I have my major sections of the report, and they're all checked by default. And as you can see, case information, where you would fill in information about the case. Your bookmark section, where all of your existing bookmarks would show up. The graphics section, where you can list specific groups of graphics. The videos section, where you can include thumbnails of videos, among other things. The file path section, where you can list the specific paths to a file or a group of files. File properties, where you can list the properties for a specified group of files. Registry selections, where you can include reports generated automatically from FTK, or also customize reports that you've generated in Registry Viewer. And then lastly, there's a screen capture section, and this is part of the visualization function. Any screen captures you perform there will show up here and be available to be included in your report. Name 3 restrictions of a user assigned case reviewer status in FTK. And the answer? Now we've listed more than 3 here. A restricted viewer or a case reviewer status cannot view privileged files, cannot add evidence, cannot perform additional analysis, cannot decrypt files, cannot create filters. And let's have a look at those functions in the tool. In FTK, I will now assign a new user to my case, and I have a user available here called Fred Flintstone, and notice that Fred's role or status is as a case reviewer. So I will add Fred as a reviewer to my case. I've now logged in as my user Fred, and one thing I can note right away is that from the case menu, the new function is disabled, so I can't create new cases. Of course, I have access to this case and I can get into that in the normal manner, but once I do that, I notice that there are many functions that are disabled. I can't add or remove data. I can't create a new filter, although I can use existing filters, and there's various functions that you can see are disabled through the menus. And that's because a restricted user or a reviewer status has limited access to files and to functions in FTK. Which of the following files would not be found on the Internet Chat Files tab in FTK? And here are the choices. Firefox Places SQLite, Internet Explorer index.dat file, Skype main.db file, and the Yahoo star.dat chat file. And the answer is the Skype main.db file in this case. Let's take a look at the FTK Internet Chat Files tab in the tool. In FTK, on the Overview tab, if I expand File Category, then I see that there is an Internet/Chat Files container, and it has artifacts broken out from a couple of different browsing and Internet-related applications. So I can see there's some AOL things here, some AOL artifacts, Internet Explorer files from index.dat files mostly, files from the Mozilla family of browsers, and I can see there's also some Yahoo IM chat logs here as well. Now, this same information is repeated in the Internet/Chat Files tab in FTK. And so I can go to that tab and see the same type of information. Now, as far as the Skype main.db file, Skype is actually a SQLite database, and it's not showing up in the Internet/Chat tab because I would find that normally under the Database category in FTK. So it's not broken out by FTK, that's where I would find it. The numerical string 123-422-17365 would be found by which regular expression? And the answer, the third regular expression would find that. And the key to this answer is understanding the purpose of the scroll brackets. The scroll brackets contain a number, and the number tells you how many total occurrences of whatever precedes that scroll bracket information, how many total occurrences of whatever this item is. So certainly there are not 17,365 occurrences of a decimal number, so that takes away our first answer. And the same kind of concept looking at some of the other expressions as well. We don't have the correct number of occurrences of a couple of things here. Notice here we're saying that we need 2 total occurrences of 3 decimal numbers followed by a dash or space. So we have the 3 numbers followed by a dash or space, and we do have 2 total occurrences of that. And the next part is that we would need 5 decimal numbers, which we do have. But then the last part, there's extra information in there again that's just not part of this regular expression. So the correct answer here is the third regular expression. The last regular expression wouldn't fit either because the number in the scroll bracket says 422, which means there would have to be 422 total occurrences of whatever precedes that, and there clearly are not as well. What are the advantages of importing a list of search terms into FTK's Index Search tab? And the answer is it's much faster than manual entry. A list of commonly searched terms can be used in multiple cases, saving time. And let's have a look at that in the tool. On my desktop, I'm starting out by creating a new text document, and I can name this whatever I'd like, but I will name this Search Terms. I'll open up my document, and then to use this, I simply enter my search terms in this plain text document, 1 word per line. I've now entered my search terms, and I would just simply save the document, exit out of it, and then it will be available for use in FTK. In FTK, I will go to use this into the Index Search tab, and instead of normally typing in my terms like I would do in a regular case, to save time, I can simply click my Import button, and then I browse out to wherever I've saved my file, and in this case I saved it to my desktop, searchterms.txt. And when I bring that in, immediately FTK is populated with my search terms and a preliminary look at my search results. Now also understand though that by default here I'm using an AND operator, and so if I just launch the search and continue, I'm effectively searching for a document that has all of my search terms in it. Instead, what I would do most likely is highlight one at a time at this point, and instead of all search terms, choose selected, and then when I do my search now, I'm only going to return results with that one search term in it, and that's more likely what I'm looking for here. And there you can see my search results for the word golem. List the steps needed for recovery of an EFS encrypted file in FTK. Number 1, identify the encrypted file, and you do this from the Overview, File Status, Encrypted Files container. Number 2, view the file in the Explore tab, Tree View. then view the $EFS stream, which is a child file, in the file list. Number 3, note the Windows user who encrypted the file in the $EFS stream. 4. Export the SAM and system files for decryption in PRTK. After obtaining the Windows password from the SAM file, input that password into FTK to decrypt the EFS files. And let's have a look at that EFS decryption in the tool. In FTK, on the Overview tab, to view encrypted files, I need to go to the File Status container and then down to Encrypted Files. And for our example here, we'll look at a file that's called mylove.doc. And you can see as I click on the file that it's encrypted. Also, if I look at the properties and specifically at the category, notice that FTK is classifying this as an EFS encrypted file. So, to be able to attack the file, I need to know which Windows user encrypted the file. That answer can be found by viewing this file in the Explore tab. So I will do that, view this item in a different list, the Explore tab, and when I do, my encrypted file shows up in the tree because it has a child sub-item, which is that $EFS utility stream, an alternate data stream, and FTK will parse that information out into this table so that pretty easily I can get the information I need, which is to identify the Windows user who encrypted the file. That user happens to be Frodo Baggins in this case. Now that I've identified the correct Windows user who encrypted the file, my next step is to export out the SAM and system registry files in preparation for decryption in PRTK. And to locate those, one way to do so is to go to File Category, down to the container for OS File System Files, and then expand that and go to the Windows NT Registry container, and there I'll have all of my registry files in the case listed. And from here I'll export out the SAM and system registry files. I have now exported out my SAM and system registry files, and I've launched PRTK. Just as a reminder too, I'm going to go to Manage Profiles, and from one of our previous exercises, I've already set up a customized profile called ACE Prep, and I'll click my Edit button just to review that. And in my ACE Prep profile, I've included a biographical dictionary, my standard English language dictionaries, and then I've included this specialized dictionary that came from my case in FTK. In FTK, I created a word list based on the indexing that I've done in my case and imported that dictionary into PRTK. That is part of this profile. So that is what I'm using. So then based on that information, I'm ready to begin decrypting, and I'm attacking my SAM file. And when I drag my SAM file into PRTK, it will identify that, and then it will prompt me to include the system file. So here I want to make sure in my first screen that I do use my ACE Prep profile, which in this case I've made as my default just to make it easier. And then looking inside of the SAM file, PRTK shows me all of the accounts. I want to make sure that I'm using just attacking, in this case I'm interested in my user Frodo. So I will get rid of my other users. Again, I'm keeping Frodo selected and unchecking the other accounts. And after I've done that, then of course below I will need to browse to the location of my system file. And just double checking to make sure I put it in the right place. I'm grabbing the right one. And with that, I'm ready to proceed with my dictionary attack on the SAM file. PRTK has now recovered the password based on one of my dictionaries. And now, in preparation for decrypting the file in FTK, I will right-click on my job and copy that password to my clipboard, one image to rule them all, and then jump back to FTK. In FTK, to decrypt the file, I go to the Tools menu, Decrypt Files, and I note that FTK has already detected that there are EFS encrypted files in the case, so then I just need to enter my password or passwords. So I'll click my Set Passwords button, and I will add the password from my clipboard into this window, one image to rule them all, and then click Decrypt. And notice that I get some feedback regarding my EFS encrypted files. New decrypted files were discovered. After the decryption and processing is complete, I will close my windows, and I want to take a look at my newly decrypted items under File Status. This is the Overview tab, File Status, and Decrypted Files. And now I can see I have a number of files that were previously not decrypted, and I can just verify that. I can kind of follow the path to see where they were before, who belonged to those files, and you can see that they did indeed belong to Frodo Baggins. And you notice that I do have a file that's read and shows up as encrypted, but that is because we've only taken care of the EFS encryption, but not the Microsoft Word encryption for this document. So that's why it still shows up as being encrypted here. When can the Expand Compound Files processing option be performed? And the answer is in pre-processing, as well as after your case creation by going to the Evidence Additional Analysis option. What type of files benefit from the Expand Compound Files processing option? Zip type files, event logs from Windows, various mail types of artifacts that are containers like PST files, inbox, message, NSF, Microsoft Office OLE sub-items, some registry files, and SQLite databases. Let's have a look at expanding compound files in the tool. For the example here, I'll select on my desktop a PDF file that we created earlier as a report in PRTK, and also the search terms.txt file that we just created a little bit ago. So let's suppose that we select both of these files and then we'll compress them, making a zipped file out of those. And what I want to do is to add this zip file to FTK as another piece of evidence, but initially we'll do that without turning on the Expand Compound Files option to see what happens. So in FTK, I will add or remove, click my Add button, and in this case I would want an individual file because it's a zip file, and I'll browse out to my desktop and I will add that zip file in. Now here for refinement options, I'll make sure, as I said, to intentionally turn off Expand Compound Files so I can see the results. My zip file has now been processed in FTK and it shows up as a piece of evidence. So note that here's my file, recovered file report.zip, and one of the things that we left on was the DT search indexing when we process this file. And let's have a look at that. Notice if I check this file and then go to my index search and put in one of the search terms that was in my text file, which was Boromir, and I add that in, I can see that there are 12 hits case-wide. But if I search now and restricting it just to my checked files, I get no hits. Now, in addition, you can see that when I highlight the file, that I can see the two files that are contained in it, but I don't have a way to list those files or to actually view the content of those files within FTK. So at this point, I'm pretty much just stuck. I can see the names of the files in there, but I can't go any further, drill down any further, because I didn't use the expand compound files function. So now I'll go a step further, and with this file still checked, I will go up to Evidence and Additional Analysis. And this time I will make sure that I perform this on my checked items, and I want to perform expand compound files. So I'll check expand compound files, and just noting when I click on the expansion options button that compressed files are included in here. As you can see, zip files are included by default as one of the types of files that do get expanded. So I'll click OK, and then click OK again to start my processing of that zipped file. My processing is now finished, and now notice that in the tree this is expandable, and when I click on my recovered file report zip file, now I have the individual files. I can see the contents of those files. I can view those. And now, if I return to the Index Search tab, since I performed expand compound files and also index searching, when I search for my search term again, I can see I actually get another hit. I get 13 hits instead of the 12 I got previously. And if I follow that through and search now, and I'll actually include all files, you can see that one of my hits is in that newly added file, which is a subitem, searchterms.txt, subitem of my zip file that I added into the case. So once you perform expand compound files, then you can get to the contents of the file and perform indexed searching if you wish. What 5 types of customized settings can be shared among cases via the Manage menu in FTK? And the answer? KFF hash sets and groups, labels, carvers, filters, columns. Let's have a look at those settings in the tool. I have the Manage menu available to me within an open case in FTK, as well as from the initial Case Manager window. So we'll look at this function for filters, but to really use it, let's start out by creating a filter the menu way from the filter menu. So I'll create a new filter, and I'll call this Frodo file name. Frodo file name. And I'll just set up one rule for this. The name contains case insensitive, and then I'll type in my word I'm looking for, which is Frodo. So this is a filter that should list any file whose name contains the word Frodo in it. So I'll save that so I'll have that available, and then close. Now, if I go to the Manage menu and to Filters and to Manage Shared Filters, and I scroll down to the F's, notice that that new filter that I just created doesn't appear here because this is the area just to list shared filters. So I'll back up, and if I want to share that between cases in FTK, I would go to Manage Filters and Manage Filters first. I will see it in this list because it exists in this case. I'll choose my filter, Frodo file name, and then I'll highlight the button and click Copy to Shared. Now it's shared among cases in FTK, and if I go back to Manage Filters and Manage Shared Filters, now I will see my filter and it's available in all of my other cases in FTK. Now, in a similar fashion, I can share and create other information. As you can see, the different functions in FTK that are available here, labels, carvers can be shared, the filters can be shared, column settings can be shared. And of course, the KFF information is shared as well. What are the two options for generating thumbnails of video files in FTK? And the answer? You can generate the thumbnails by percentage, every n% of the length of the file, or you can do it by interval, every n number of seconds. Let's take a look at the video thumbnail function in the tool. In FTK, let's first go to the New Video tab for FTK5, a new function, and notice that there is no data that's populating that now because we have not generated any video thumbnails. So let's do that. In the Overview tab, under File Category and Multimedia Files, we'll select a video file in the MPEG container. We have one file there called happy.mpeg. So if we want to generate a thumbnail for this file, while it's highlighted, I'll go up to Evidence and Additional Analysis, and I want to choose the highlighted item in this case. It would be the same if I chose currently listed items as well, but I want to create a thumbnail for this. So I'll go to the Miscellaneous tab in this case, and I want to create thumbnails for videos, so I'll check the option, and then I can specify by clicking on the Thumbnail Options button how I want to generate those, by percentage or by interval. Now this is a fairly short video, so it's only maybe 25 seconds or so. So anyway, I will choose, let's just say I choose the default of every 5% of the way through the video. And I'll click OK, and then OK to begin the processing. Now that my processing is finished, I can return to the Video tab, and now notice I have one item that's populating this tab. And if I make my way down to the video, happy.mpeg, now I have a series of thumbnails that represent the activity in that file. And then that way, if this is a long video, I can preview my way through the video, see if there's anything that requires a little bit more attention or interest from me, and go to that section perhaps in the file. How was the Volatile tab in FTK populated? And the answer is through the Evidence Add Remote Data menu. You can also do it through Evidence Import Memory Dump. Let's have a look at the Volatile tab and how it functions in the tool. In FTK, I've gone to the Volatile tab, and as you can see, there is no information that's currently populating here. So to process memory, we have to in advance have acquired some memory information. So we have a file already set that's from a memory dump in Imager, and I will make my way to import that in using the Evidence menu. Evidence, Import Memory Dump, and I have to supply an agent name just to satisfy the tool basically, so I'll just call mine, let's say ACE Prep, or perhaps whoever your collection target is. And then I have two options here, memory dump file or memory swap file. In this case, I have a memory dump file prepared, and I will go there and grab this. And when you create these by using Imager, they're in the form of memdump.mem. And I'll go ahead and bring that in. Now that my memory dump has been imported into FTK, now we have information that populates the tab. And we can make our way through the different information that's available, processors and handles and process list, and then it's up to us to interpret the information. Name two ways in which the scope of an indexed search in FTK can be limited. The answer: you can use filtering to accomplish that, or you could also use checked files. Let's take a look at limiting our index searches in the tool. In FTK, I will do an index search for the word Frodo. When I look at my preliminary results, you can see I have over 11,000 hits for that. That's a good bit. So there are ways that I can limit my search results to a specific area or a group of files. So one example might be this. I click Search Now, and I have a variety of filters available to me. So let's suppose that we want to limit our search results just to, in this case, graphic files. So I'll turn on my graphics file filter, and when I look at my results, from my original list of over 11,000 preliminary results or hits, I'm down to about 2,300 hits. And noticing that all of my hits indeed do come from the graphic containers. So that's one way that you could accomplish that. Another way might be to go back and try another filter. Let's say this time I want my search results only to be from actual files. So I'll turn on that filter. And as you would expect, I get different results, 7,200 some files as opposed to my original 11,000. Another way that I could approach this is to limit it just to a specific area of files. So in this case, in my Explore tab, I'll make my way down to the Recycle bin. So the folder in this instance of Windows would be called Recycler. And I want to check all the files that are children of the Recycler folder. So I've quick picked these. And then before I check files, I want to make sure that I don't currently have any files checked in the case that I don't want as part of this operation. So I will uncheck all files in the case and then check all files in the current list. Now I'll go back to my search, and this time when I click Search Now, I can go to Checked Items, Checked Files, and choose this radio button, restricting my search just to those checked files. And certainly that's a lot smaller set of data to go through, 17 hits, 2 files.